Kirstein in Attack on Titan, who's, I believe, celebrating his birthday today.
Oh, yay!
Happy fictional birthday.
First, Master Roshi is one of my favorite characters from Dragon Ball.
Cool.
He cares for his students and sacrificed himself to save the world. I was excited to see him finally fight again in the Tournament of Power. Do you think Master Roshi deserves his own saga? I think he's a noble character, except for the peeping, of course.
Well, they built into the Super storyline that they were trying to make that no longer a weakness of his. That he did a lot of intensive study to not let distractions, et cetera, of however you'd like to word it, be prominent in his life anymore. It'd be cool if he had his own arc, for sure. I think Toriyama at some point said something like he wanted to have like a Mr. Satan, like separate spin-off sort of thing, which would also be kind of fun. But yeah, I think Roshi as a sensei, Roshi as an instructor, Roshi day-to-day life, I mean, that'd be interesting to watch. Yeah.
Do you feel connected or influenced by Master Roshi in any way after voicing him for so long?
I don't know about influenced. Connected, I guess, as much as I can be to a character that I've played for 25, 26 years now. Yeah, I don't necessarily think like I've read a line that was like, oh, this has imparted wisdom upon me and I'm going to let that impact my day-to-day life anymore. I can't think of a specific instance of anything like that happening. But it is fun to go into that mindset and that voice and that character.
Yes.
That's excellent work, boys, but you must learn to move faster. The amount of land you till will increase every day. Now, who wants breakfast?
Training or errands, work intensive errands, considered as like training, like Rocky in a refrigerator. It just makes me stronger and keeps me going. And it's one of my favorite characters. He's very human, but to me, like a fatherly figure.
Yeah. Thank you.
I appreciate all the everything, all the work for all these years.
No,
watching
thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to do. So I'm glad that it's well received.
What's your process for getting into your characters?
It depends on each character, but the thing that they all have in common would be that I do some sort of vocal warm-up on the way to the session, depending on what type of session it is or what character it is or whatever it is. We'll change the warm-up. Sometimes it's just vocal and diction warm-ups. Sometimes it's singing. Sometimes it's scream singing. If I know it's going to be like, a military whatever session where I'm just filling in a bunch of guys in the background of a video game who are screaming grenade at the top of their lungs and stuff like that. And then upon arrival, I'll get a reference file of some work that I've done previously so I can get back into the tone and volume and character and delivery of the character. And then the ADR director will fill me in on the context of what's going on and what my character's place would be like within that. So some of it's physical, some of it's content, some of it's emotional.
That's great.
Thank you.
What do you think about Gene from Attack on Titan? Is he a leader or a bully or a serious man that gets at the weirdos around him?
I think Jean Kirstein is someone who is very relatable as far as an audience member watching a show like that. I think he's someone that has probably been all of those things, and it just depends on which season and which episode, whichever, and which arc that you're watching to see which one has taken the forefront. I do think that he's realized his situation in the world, realized the world around him, and is definitely trying to not just make it a better place for himself, but for others too. He's become more selfless along the way. And that's some nice emotional growth.
Do ADR directors sometimes have to audition for projects? Like the way Hollywood studios, they hire directors for each movie. So does an ADR director possibly
Audition for
a different project or travel to different studios as well, or are you just a one stationary employee?
Well, I've directed it at a couple of different places over the years, and sometimes it's not the same as an audition. It might be like just submitting your interest, or submitting your interest in general. Like, hey, this is the type of work that I do. These are some of the things that I've worked on. If you're ever in need of someone like that, please consider me. In the instance of someone like Funimation or Crunchyroll that I work with on the regular, it could be that here's the heads up on a bunch of seasonal shows for next season that we might get. I might look through them and say, that one looks of great interest to me. If it works out schedule-wise, I would like to work on that one. You know, just to let them know, out of this list of 20 or 30 things, these 2 or 3 really interest me. Beyond that, I'm not sure. I mean, like, there are instances where, as a director, I still need to audition for things as an actor, and I still do that all the time. If it comes down to it's something that I myself am working on, then it's kind of taken out of my hands, so that it's not casting my nepotism, like it's decided by producers and other people.
Very fair.
Yeah.
How does it feel to be Buggy the Clown, a very beloved and ridiculous character?
I love being Buggy the Clown. I think Buggy and Roshi are the most fun characters that I have. They're the most not like my speaking voice, and kind of the most out there, like wacky, you know, for lack of a better word, cartoony type characters. It's that, once again, that's someone that's gone on a journey, and that's the journey of that particular character. It's amazing to see how much you can fail upwards over and over and over again. Be in the right place at the right time and screw up in just the right way to get a promotion over and over and over. And I love it. I think that's such a fun storyline to follow. Of the stuff that I've worked on thus far, I really liked the Impel Down arc. I thought that was a lot of fun.
I think that's everyone's favorite. I feel like Buggy really shined in that one.
I agree, yeah.
What is the funniest thing you went through from voice acting?
Funniest thing I've gone through in voice acting. I don't know. There's several things that are funny in the moment, you know, maybe a strangely worded instruction in the script, maybe a line where it's slightly mistyped to mean something else entirely and we catch it. Maybe the director misspoke or something and accidentally said something that's very funny. Nothing stands out in particular. There's some stuff that's, you know, not necessarily funny, but shocking and or whatever else. I've witnessed people, you know, leaning back in chairs and stuff in booth, and suddenly they've fallen off of it and they're in a weird position in the booth. I've seen people trying to emulate what they see on screen as far as someone who's been beat up or bruised or they're drowning or whatever, in various sorts of processes of like, I'm gonna have some drink, I'm gonna hold my face in a weird position and all those sorts of things to get the right sound. It's a very inventive and creative activity, voice acting and acting in general. So it's neat to see how everyone's brains work and how they approach a situation differently.
I'm looking at your ADR directing credits.
Mm-hmm.
What was one of the funniest, most random animes that you directed? For me, I always thought
funny
it
little
might...
random one. I worked on one called Noreen.
Oh,
like
I figured that was
N-O-R-E-N.
gonna be it.
Yeah, that one's fun, and that one's ridiculous, and that's not like a lot of the other work that I've gotten to do before. Fun little fish out of water comedy, and fun characters. And with shows like that, it's also fun to have like a, you know, the world's going to end mindset over very small problems, but we treat it with such anxiety and such tension, and we give it such weight that that's how it's presented. I think that situations and shows like that are fun.
And yes, in that anime, some of the jokes I went through, were they adapted for Western audiences?
I think, let's see, I can't remember who all the writing staff was on that, but in some instances, I don't think there were a lot of like, here's a strange pun that doesn't work in English because the words don't sound similar or whatever. I don't remember there being a lot of those. there were a bunch of like, you know, PG-13 level relationship-y, sexual type jokes that were in there. But that's part of the content of the material.
I think I was, I was thinking, remembering that one scene with the two boys shooting yogurt at each other.
Yeah, shooting yogurt and squirt guns. There's nothing that could go wrong with that. Yeah.
How does it feel being in so many popular long-running?
It feels cool though. Like, I've been very fortunate. Straight out of the gate, the first anime that I ever booked was Dragonball. And that was in 1997. I had an audition. I read for a Dragon Ball movie, and I was cast as Master Roshi and an antagonist named Count Lucifer, obviously a good guy. A big demon-looking creature called Army Commander, and some other like bit stuff. And they liked what I did on Roshi and that, so they just had me keep doing it for the series and whatever else. I feel super fortunate to have gotten to work on some really like high tier, if we're going to talk about anime over a past certain number of years, that it's a whole bunch of them that make that mark that I've been involved with. And it's a huge honor, and I feel so very lucky and fortunate to have had that opportunity. I've worked on Dragon Ball, I've worked on even little bits of Pokemon, I've worked on Attack on Titan, I've worked on Chainsaw Man, I got to work on the Evangelion movies, I worked on a ton of stuff, One Piece, just a lot of like really long running, well-known things. And it feels very cool to have that. Yeah. 5, okay.
5 more minutes? Okay. What is the most difficult character you had to voice?
Difficult can kind of be broken down into different categories. There's physically difficult, which would be things like Baby from Dragon Ball GT,
Ooh, baby.
Buggy, Wheep from Dragon Ball, and just anything where I've decided to take like a very harsh, aggressive tone with my voice. It just physically has a toll on me. The mental part of it is one thing, because they're usually kind of aggressive and straightforward characters. As far as like, I want that, I will go for that, you know, sort of like very driven characters. But doing anything like this, like for a long period of time, that physically hurts after a little bit. Screaming in that voice, everything like that. Some of them are challenging emotionally, but I love that. I love getting to dig into something that affects me emotionally while I'm recording it, via either happiness or sadness and crying and all sorts of stuff. Same sorts of things that I would do if I was on camera or on stage, which I have done before, but the voice work aspect of it and recording it in little chunks like that, it's an interesting challenge to let the emotional weight carry you that way. Those are some of the things that I've liked.
How have you felt being treated by like such a big fan base for Jean? Because like I feel like this last season, it just.
It's very cool. At the time the show started, of course, the manga wasn't complete and I wasn't sure where the story was going. For that point in time, that was pre-doing broadcast dub type stuff where it's like right on top of it. So I did get to see the first 2-core season before we started recording. So that was the most I knew of Jean going into it prior to starting to record. As far as like his journey, what a cool journey. What a cool experience that fellow's had. Really had to step up each and every season, sometimes several times within one season. And I'm proud of him. He's done so well. Jean's a good character.
If we don't exterminate the island devils now, it's only a matter of time before they come here and destroy us all. You remember Willie Tyber's speech? What's the world gonna do?
Do you have any workshop classes, and what would you give any advice if someone wants to try to become a voice actor or ADR director?
Sure. I don't teach any workshops. The most I would do is like a Q&A sort of situation at a convention, things like that. I tend to be pretty busy with the work that I already have, and adding putting a syllabus and a class together would be additional work and would be additional time out of my schedule, which is already like really booked. I'm very lucky, but like I tend to work somewhere between 8 and 12 and 16 hours a day sometimes, including the weekends. There was a multi-year period where I did not have a day off except for like Christmas and things like that. And even on Christmas, I'd be like, okay, let's review some stuff. So I choose to not add additional things to the already very booked schedule. As far as suggestions of things to help further along the career, the studies or things like that. If you want to be a voice actor, I really think it's important to study acting. I think it's important to study it in a scholastic type surrounding, not just like looking up YouTube videos or things like that, but like taking a class with other people where you are challenged to stand up and do a thing, where you are challenged to work with a partner that you may not be very familiar with outside of class and have to work together on something. Challenges that you will face as an actor as you go. I think having studied in that capacity helps you to feel more confident about what you can do and about your abilities. I think improv is a good big plus to doing such a thing as well, especially with voice work. You might be brought in to like do a whole plethora of different characters, and you know, here's an old man, and here's this young soldier, and here's this young boy, and whatever else, and you have to be able to like switch to that really quickly and provide a voice that seems realistic for the given situation, and a performance that's equally so. Voice and diction is another class that's fun to, that would be a good, I say fun, it's studies, but it's a big plus. Sometimes scholastically it would be like in a speech department, or I'm not sure if they still call it, it was called forensics when I was in college, which was weird because I always associate that with like crime scenes and whatever else, but speech tournament type stuff is called forensics for whatever reason. That's a good thing to study as well. Voice and diction. Beyond that, there's classes that can teach technical aspects of it, teach you how, like whatever acting knowledge you have, you can switch over, like here's how to apply that to ADR work, and this is the kind of things that you would find in ADR work, and here's what a typical script looks like, and here's what you might be asked to do. Those are helpful as well, but I think it's way more helpful to have all of this other stuff going into that, where all you're doing is like taking this knowledge and applying it to these tools rather than trying to learn all this in this tool learning session, if that makes sense.
Well, thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you all so much.
Yep. All right, Nick, get a quick picture with him for the